Hey, what's happening?
Brother, what's up?
This is a
Hey, how
good
you doing?
recording, man.
Yeah,
I
brother,
can
like
dig it.
solid. Right on.
Hey, man, what's your name? It's everything, it's everything.
Mother, mother, there's too many of you to cry. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you die. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah. Father, Father.
Good morning and welcome to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. That's 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. And manning the phones, as always, none other than Calvin. Hey, Calvin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Earl. It's going to be another warm one today. How are you?
Hey, man, it's going to be 54, 55 degrees. Still in February, man. And then next week, we're going to possibly some 60s. Right. Did you see that?
I did not see that. That's kind of ridiculous.
Yes, it's ridiculous. Yeah, but just unbelievable. It's already cemented. The warmest winter in the history of Wisconsin is already cemented in the archives of weather. It doesn't matter what happens between now and the end of winter. We have just lived through the warmest, winter in the history of this state. So anyway, got a lot to talk about this morning. As always, it's Wednesday. That means Dr. Craig of Citizen Action, Executive Director of Citizen Action, is going to be joining us. And I want to welcome to the studio a good friend, and I guess I can say a colleague, Mr. Brian Blankenheim. Did I destroy your name, Brian?
No, you hit it right on the head.
All right. I'm generally not that well versed in that, but you are the owner of Wisconsin Event Productions.
I am a lighting, staging, and LED video wall company.
And so people may ask, well, why do you have a guy in who owns a lighting? Go ahead, say it.
Lighting, staging, and video wall company.
It is because before we go there, tell us a little bit about Brian Blankenheim.
Well, I was born and raised in Milwaukee, in the 76th and Blue Mound neighborhood.
Beautiful neighborhood. It's still that.
Went to St. Anthony of Padua grade school across the street from Pius. In 1973, my dad's business moved to New Berlin. So we moved to Waukesha, and I attended Waukesha South, graduated there in 1977. When we moved to Waukesha, we were attending St. Joe's Church right up the street here. And I was I was singing in the choir at the church and met a musician who played the bass guitar. And he introduced me to a singer in a band who till this day is a good friend. And it was a popular band in the Waukesha area. And I got to know him. He worked at the local music equipment store right up the street here, which is not there anymore, obviously. And within a month, I was helping that band move their gear. And that was my start and my introduction into the entertainment industry, and that just over the years led to what I'm doing now.
So to give people an idea of the kinds of things that you do and that you're engaged in, you travel the entire summer and fall across the country with acts?
No, mostly
okay.
around here.
Okay.
I stay local. Would like to travel more, but
but top flight entertainers you do
Oh,
lights for.
well, I've worked the entertainment industry in the Milwaukee area again since the 80s. I've worked in every major venue in Milwaukee. I was when the Bradley Center opened, I ran the crew that changed the floor over, but I also ran the spotlight department there. And it was on me to train spotlight operators to cover any event that they had in there. I remember right after the Bradley Center opened, we had Van Halen for a show. I had 2 or 3 guys that knew what they were doing, and I needed like 30 guys. So it was on me to train all these new people. But I worked at the Bradley Center. I've done lighting in the Milwaukee Theater, which at that time was the auditorium.
Right.
The what is it? The AmFam
Yeah.
at Summerfest. I've done lighting. I lit the Bishop there. So I've worked at Alpine Valley.
So it's safe to say that you are very well experienced and have dealt with professional acts.
Oh yeah, I've done lighting on main stages, county fair main stages, major up and coming acts. I've lit a lot of different.
Well,
shows.
so you are here because you and I share a love for a company called Capita Productions,
Capita Productions.
a music and dance and performance company that is centered out of Milwaukee and puts on one of the most spectacular plays and in the entire state, right?
I would say when it comes to entertainment at that level, I mean, you could probably take the show we do, which is We Are the Drum, and put it in any major theater and would play very well.
No question. It could be downtown,
Could be anywhere.
anywhere. The quality of Capita Productions, We Are the Drum, I think is I'm just always so thrilled, man. Yesterday when we were at the first student shows,
For the student shows.
even though I had seen some of this during, the practice, that these children and some of these people have been going at this since September when they first come together,
Right.
and working up to what is going to be our kickoff schedule starting Friday with the community shows.
Friday night.
They've been working since September. This is the quality of what is happening with Capitol Productions, We Are the Drum.
And you can really tell that all the effort that the participants, the singers, the narrators, the dancers, it's amazing how it just
the live band,
it just all, once the show starts, it just all comes together. I mean, you can go through rehearsal after rehearsal and you're like, oh, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. But I tell you, once the show comes, it just all comes together.
So you've been at this for how many years?
With Capita?
Yes.
About 15, I think.
Wow.
Approximately. I don't know. Casey and I go way back. Casey Williams being the producer of the show. Casey's been involved with Capita for a long time. I mean, he goes way back with Arlene Skorowski, who was the founder of Capita. She was a music teacher at North Division and had a vision for Capita, and Casey helped make that vision happen.
Well, here's what I want. I know Casey is listening. Hey, Casey, call in 844-967-2789. Casey Williams, if you're out there anywhere in the universe, 844-967-2789. Brian, you talked about all of these other things that make it go, but your lighting, the quality of, you bring a level to the show that I think could probably separates the show and brings it to a higher level.
Well, thank you for that.
Well, it's true. Lighting is an art. I guess an art form.
I always phrased it like this: lighting is the palette that things play on. It's just lighting is the base thing, and you're there to highlight and make what you're lighting exciting. If you just had the dancers up there and there's just white light, I mean, the presentation and the people presenting it could be great, but the lighting is what brings it all together.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, I'm joined by my good friend, Brian Blankenheim. He is the owner of Wisconsin Event Production. And as we ramp up for the next couple weeks of production and of Capitol Productions, we are the drum live. What do we call it? A live show?
A live presentation.
Live presentation of music, singing, dance, acting, all of those things roll into one. I'm so excited. I think I've been around you guys now for about 7 years, and I'm so thankful that you allow a non-talented person like myself to be around all of you great talents, man.
Well, I appreciate that. We do have a great production crew. The audio engineer, a good friend of mine, Dan O'Brien. This is
all top-notch stuff.
Oh yeah, Dan and I go back 40 years. I mean, we knew each other back in the early 80s, and we were working for bands that were managed by the same company, and we lived together in the same house for a long time. But he is by far the best audio engineer in southeastern Wisconsin, and so when you come to the show, you can expect an excellent presentation, audio, lighting, the presentation itself. It's top notch.
All right. 844-967-2789 is the number. And, again, I'm joined by Brian Blankenheim. He is with Wisconsin Event Productions as we kick off 2 weeks of Capitol Productions. We are the drum. We'll tell you a little bit about where you can come and see it and where you can get tickets. Again, you're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show, 844 at 540 AM WARK.
To the Shaw, WAUK, Waukesha's home for Matt and Air on Air.
I joined the Carpenters Union 15 years ago as an apprentice, got free training, and have been able to advance. Now I'm a superintendent, running high-profile projects in Milwaukee that change the city skyline. I'm looking for skilled and experienced carpenters. If you want to join my team with great pay, better benefits, and a chance to advance, apply today. Call 262-970-5777 and press 0 to apply. That's 262-970-5777 and press 0.
From the kennel to the coop, whatever the season, Fleet Farm has everything to keep your animals happy and healthy. From training your pup to sit season to mastering those retrieval skills season. From clipping your horse for competition season to keeping the backyard birds well-fed season. And of course, loving your pets like family season. There's a reason people say, if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, you don't need it. Because we have it all. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
Capitol Production, we're on the move. We're on the move.
so many things that's held us down. But now it looks like things are finally coming around. I know we've got a long, long way to go. And where we'll end up.
All right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. My guest is Wisconsin Event Productions own Brian Blankenheim. And we're talking about a very special production of Capitol Productions. We Are the Drum that is going to be kicking off this Friday in Milwaukee at John Marshall High School. We have a 7 p.m. Opening
on Friday night.
On this Friday, which is the 25th, I think, or 24th. And
Saturday and Sunday, there are matinees in the afternoon.
There is a Saturday matinee on the 26th at John Marshall. That's, I think, 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And then Saturday evening, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. The following, and then Sunday there's a matinee. And the following week, exact same. The duplication of those things. I am the MC and chief cook and bottle washer. But anyway, it is a really a sojourn of the history of, since it's Black History Month. I think that's the guy there. That might be him that we're looking for. Sojourn of Milwaukee, of African Americans, sojourn in this country, and musically.
And it's done in a very spectacular way. From the opening number, which is a beautiful dance piece, African village setting. I just can't say enough about the
children.
Children, kids that are like not even 10 years old yet, and they're getting up there and dancing. And
5, 6 years old, and the costuming is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a guy on the phone. I don't know if we need to let him on. Is it okay with you?
I don't know. What do you think?
Let's see. None other than the renowned Casey Williams. Good morning to you, Casey. How you doing, man? Casey. There he is. Casey.
There you go.
All right. What's happening, man?
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Man, I tell you, Earl, thank you for having us on, man. We appreciate it.
Hey, man, don't be afraid, man. Don't be nervous. You're being heard. You're being heard all over the state of Wisconsin for the most part. Just don't worry about a thing.
Well, I had to get in a better area so that we can receive this conversation.
Hey, go ahead, Casey.
Without going in and out. but Earl, I want to thank you and the station for having.
No, man, tell us a little bit about Capitol Productions and We Are the Drum and Casey Williams.
Well, Capitol Productions, Capitol, again, meaning City at Peace in the Arts, which is a community theater company which allows inner city children and their families, not just inner city, but outer city, to come to be a part of the theater. Most of the cast members have never been on the stage, and we start, we recruit the end of September, and we start rehearsals in October, and it leads all the way up until this time, around Black History Month, to put on the production of We Are the Drum, speaking of from Africa to America to today. And unlike a lot of other organizations, we have a living script. So our script changes daily. So when things happen, we put it in the script, and we show that on the stage in a production through song, dance, narration. And the great thing about it is we do not charge a dime. We feed our cast, and it's a family, it's a village, and with Brian and his company, with the production company, with the lighting and the sound, we create an atmosphere of New York, Vegas, Hollywood style. You would not realize that you are in a high school when you come to our production.
You know, it's absolutely 100% accurate in what you say, Casey. What would people see when they come to see the production?
Well, it's imperative and detrimental that we teach our youth, and I'm not putting a color on it, but we teach our youth about the history of our past so that they can change their present to secure their future. And that's of dire straits and importance, that this nation and the world, it's so important to learn about some of the mistakes that we've made in our past so that we can change this present, so that we can secure our future. This is what they're going to see. And they're going to see this, and 100% after whoever sees this show, 100%, they're going to come out a different person. And if you do not, then there's something wrong with you.
Let me, Casey, dates and times of the performance.
Yes, crucial dates. This Friday, February 23rd, is our opening day. We must pack that house because that will dictate the rest of the 2-week run. So February 23rd at 7 p.m. at Milwaukee Marshall, located 4141 North 64th Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53216. And then we have 2 shows on that Saturday, 24th, at 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Then the following weekend, we have March 1st, March 2nd, and March 3rd. And March 2nd, which is Saturday, that is a 3 p.m. and a 7 p.m. And Sunday is a 4 p.m. matinee. But the Fridays are at 7 p.m. We need everybody to show out, all colors and colors.
Listen, man, I want you to hang on a second. 844-967-2789. This morning, my guest, Brian Blankenheim, Wisconsin, Event Productions, and Casey Williams, the producer extraordinaire and actor and
had
singer,
a great singer
and dancer of We Are the Drum. 844-967-2789 is the number. You can join us. News, weather, and sports up next.
Tim Slecker, and this is Dr. Johnny Lupinacci. Tune in this Wednesday when Teacher Hallie and Teacher Joanna from Educators Amplified join Dr. Tim and Dr. Johnny to tackle the challenges facing our youth.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Wisconsin State Senate Republicans are firing 4 more of Governor Evers' appointees. Democratic Senator Mark Spreitzer.
Governor Evers is still the governor, and he'll still be the governor next session. It's been 5 years, and I'm still waiting for all of you to get used to that.
Yesterday's firings include former Lieutenant Governor Barbara Lawton from the UW Hospitals and Clinics Board and Todd Ames from the Natural Resources Board. A proposed constitutional amendment would stop Wisconsin governors from raising taxes or fees on their own. The last straw for Republicans was when Governor Evers used his line item veto to raise school spending for 400 years. Yesterday's vote in the Assembly was the first step in the plan. It needs to pass the legislature again next year, then go to a statewide referendum. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. Voters said no to all of the referendum questions presented by 3 area school districts yesterday. Wilmot Union in Kenosha County came closest to approval, with 45% voting in favor of a $7.5 million operational referendum. Waterford's 2 questions also faced defeat. They were looking for $91 million total. Burlington's $11 million operational referendum was also turned down, with about 3,400 votes against and 2,700 votes in favor. The city of Milwaukee is trying to make waiting at traffic lights less frustrating. They're spending almost $500,000, mostly from a federal grant, to put new software in all the traffic lights in the city. UrbanMilwaukee.com reports the change includes new technology to let sensors see traffic better, which will help them keep greens longer when needed. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
The Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Jam from Racine, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Jam.
I voted for Reagan back in the day. I guess I've been supporting more of the Democratic Party for the last 40 years or so, but people that say, oh man, she's a Republican, she's a Democrat, she's a whatever. I'm a human being. All these other things aren't important. We need to unite against a bigger threat. I think the threat is us becoming dictatorship. They want us to fail.
The Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Weekday afternoons from 4 until 6 on your local civic media radio station and on the app.
Compete with a 60-second showbiz beat. Beyonce, a country music star? Yes, indeed. And if that weren't enough, the genre-hopping singer has the #1 song on the country charts called Texas Hold'em. Variety reports that this is the first time a black woman has topped the country music charts. And according to Billboard, she is the only black woman ever to hit #1 on both country and the hot R&B hip-hop charts. Other artists who have achieved that feat are Justin Bieber, Billy Ray Cyrus, and Ray Charles. Kind of cool. Fans of the Gilmore Girls have flocked to Amazon to pre-order a copy of The Third Gilmore by Kelly Bishop, who played Emily Gilmore, the family matriarch. She's written a book about her experiences that promises never-before-heard stories. The Gilmore Girls helped put the WB network on the map and helped Bishop move from Broadway to TV. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, every night between 7 and 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
This is your local civic media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
It is going to be mostly sunny and mild today. We'll get to around 54 for a high this afternoon. The wind out of the southwest at 5 to 10. Tonight, mostly cloudy, 35. Tomorrow, a little light rain in the morning, then partly cloudy, 49. On Friday, sunny, 38. But we will bounce back with 40s and 50s into the weekend. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 40.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Keeping Southeast Wisconsin informed, engaged, and entertained. This is The Shaw.
540.
All right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. You tuned in to 540 AMWAUK and 101 FM, the show in a beautiful, beautiful studio. I am joined by Mr. Brian Blankenheim. He is Wisconsin Event Productions and KC Williams, the one and only KC Williams of Capital Production. You know, KC, what you may not know is I have a little ham in me as well. And, you know, with this voice, man, I can sing a little bit, man, but I never get an opportunity. The drum,
You two can
We
do a
are the
duo.
drum, Africa to America. We are the drum. We are the drum.
Okay, well,
We are the drum,
that's
Africa to America. We are the drum. See, you never give me a chance, man. Come on, man. Give me a shot.
well. You know, for the audience to know that we have an actor of our own that we have given him a shot, and he did very well. We have a virtual show of We Are the Drum, which we will be shopping out to the schools, which has a lesson plan as well for those who are not able to come to the shows, because we have put on 8 student shows, and schools from the Milwaukee area and outside of Milwaukee are coming to see the show. Our first show, again, which was yesterday, it was absolutely phenomenal, and it's going to get better. Because the kids, they were phenomenal. The audience was phenomenal. The kids were totally engaged, and so we decided to do a virtual show so that the kids could have a lesson plan to write about what they've learned, and that's the most important element. 100% of those children and the staff who came to the show yesterday, they all were pleased.
Hey, KC, you skipped over my request.
Some things are
I
better.
think he was just ignoring you.
So you meet me. You meet my request with a laugh. Okay, I get it.
No. See, you're talking to the right one.
Hey, man, listen.
Because I can put you. I can and I will put you on the spot.
Hey, man, let me do this, man. Where can people get tickets, and how much are the tickets?
Yes. Tickets are in advance. You can get tickets at capitaproductions.com. That's CAPITA Productions with an S.com. Or you could come to Milwaukee Marshall High School after 4:00 during the week, and on weekends it's at 10:00. But the show starts this weekend, so you can get your tickets early this week. But next week you can get the tickets early, 4 to 8 o'clock at Milwaukee Marshall High School.
And how much are the seats? How much are the seats?
$15 in advance, $20 at the door.
Okay.
And Earl, I just wanted to say, if we're trying to keep the prices reasonable, we have a lot of our constituents who come to the show. They were like, "Man, you guys are really under selling yourselves." But we need to be realistic about our community, and so we try to give them a $50 production at a low cost.
So let's talk a little bit about
$50 per.
Let's talk a little bit about you, man. How many albums have you been a part of? Your own albums?
My own albums.
You're a singer, man.
Earl, when it comes to me and doing this production, I try to keep me.
I know that. I know. But listen, you're nationally.
I knew you were going to put me on the spot.
You're nationally renowned
I knew that.
country western singer. You perform with some of the best, and there's a portion of the play where you kind of do your thing, man. Let's talk a little bit about how you got into and if you kind of traveled the world doing country western music. You're not just a bump on the log.
Well, like that old country song. I was country before country was cool, And I started singing country in the late 70s, actually, and I had my first break. I wrote a song when in the 80s when the Brewers had won the pennant. I wrote a Brewers song. It was a country song, but and it got a buzz here in Wisconsin, and so I started, seeking out and had an interview with Quincy Jones in '84. So I took the song and a couple of my other songs to him. Quincy Jones told me right out that I am not ready. I mean, he bust my bubble. He told me I am not ready for America, and America is not ready for me. I have to go back and evaluate myself and get better, in other words. And he was right. He was absolutely right. And so what I did, I connected with, thanks to Harvey Scales, he connected me with a lady named Bonnie Turner. She was an acoustic guitar player for Hank Williams Sr. in Nashville. And I met with her. She heard me. She stopped me in the middle of my song, and she immediately called her son, Robbie Turner. He was the number 2 steel guitar player in the world, and he produced and played on the Highwaymen. Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings, and them. So he was their steel guitar player. From there, when we met, and that was in the '90s, and he became my producer.
So
and we started recording.
To expedite this, you lived in Germany and performed in Germany for how many years?
Well, we're still in connection with Germany. 20 plus years, close to 30 years.
Yeah. So Germany has an affinity for country western music, huh?
The difference between Europe and America, and I had to get to that because I had an interview at Warner Bros. Nashville, sitting on the couch, and lo and behold, before he got signed, it was a young Garth Brooks there also. Garth Brooks got signed, and they told me that America is not ready for another black country singer.
Yeah. So at that time, Charlie Pride. Who else was it? There was another well-known black country western singer. I forgot.
Well. Ray Charles was a country singer. If we want to go back to the history, there's several black country singers. O.B. McClendon, D. Ford Bailey.
Yeah, but
D. Ford Bailey was a harmonica player, and he was one of the founders of the Grand Ole Opry. So there are many great country singers, black country singers. It's just that America, for some odd reason, want to put people in categories, because when I was doing country music, I was criticized by my family and by blacks and whites that I should not be singing that I should not be singing that music. But that music is embedded in me. I love country music. I mean, I grew up on it. My uncle in Greenwood, Mississippi, only 2 types of music that he allowed in his house was gospel and country. And that's what I grew up on. So therefore, moving forward, I hooked up with Tim McGraw in '98. I opened up for him for the 95th anniversary of Harley Davidson, and from there, and Tim liked what he heard, and so I recorded an album and a half, no, 2 albums and a half with Tim McGraw's band, the Dance Hall Doctors, and that was their road band, Tim's road band. He had never recorded in the studio with this band. I was the first to record with the Dance Hall Doctors.
So here's what I want people to get to know is the quality of this production, and with you having the professional background that you have, and the team that you put together, the production team and all of those things. You guys started working on this play in September. How is it possible to hold together all of those people and the practice schedules that long, and then to finally be able to put it out before the world to see as you did on yesterday?
A whole lot of prayer. But you got all of these different personalities and everything, but it's just the love of the art and the love to see the kids light up. That's the motivation that keeps us going. I mean, Brian and I have been together over 20 plus years, and when I first introduced him to the production, he was totally amazed. And he's like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize the talent that was in just the inner city alone." And we were like, "Well, we got to do something about this," And the thing about, and I say that respectfully when I say we, because when Brian and I we don't look at our color. He's a white man, I'm a black man, but that's my brother. That's what we look at. That's how we look at each other. And we try to display that to this organization. Love is the color, and love is transparent. So when you step into it, that's what you get.
So Casey and Brian, I was telling Brian that when they make the first entrance at the beginning of the performance,
oh my God,
and Brian with his lighting and what it does is people are talking, and they're waiting, people are talking, and then the lighting hits, and as the entrance of the actors comes in, it goes dead silent. The quality of what he does with the lighting kicks it up another notch.
It absolutely actually takes your breath away.
Yeah, it does.
Because you like, it's like it's been transformed. Here this auditorium in high school automatically, instantaneously becomes transformed into something like, where are we? Are we in New York? Are we in Vegas?
Yeah, it certainly for all the right reasons will take you and have you believe that that's where you are. Guys, we got to leave it there. Love you guys. I'll see you guys after my show on Thursday for the student shows. And man, I don't think I'll be able to sleep Thursday night, knowing that Friday's community performance is going to kick everything off. Thank both of you, man. I'll keep announcing it. And quickly, Brian, you want to say something close?
I just am happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about the show, and everybody should come out and see it. Please support the arts.
All right. I got to go. 844-967-2789. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show.
Okay, Waukesha's home for Nightlight with Pete Schwab.
Matt Nair on air.
Eric Hovde now. He will be running against Tammy Baldwin.
He's not a Wisconsinite. He threw his hat in the ring from California. This is Tim Michaels all over again. Businessman who walks in and goes, well, I can take care of this. And Wisconsin says, no. Good to know you. Here's some Kringle. Go back home.
Is that how we politely blow people off now? Is to take a Kringle and go away?
Matt Nair on air. Weekdays 10 till noon on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
This message is for Shauna, my mom, who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You told me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud as you have made me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
They say the neon lights are bright on Broadway. waves matching in the air. But when you're walking down that street and you ain't had enough to eat.
All right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. I want to talk about Alabama Supreme Court ruled embryos are extraterrene children. Now, again, Alabama Supreme Court ruled embryos are extraterrene children. So what is, what are they talking about? What's, an embryo, is a human embryo is already a distinct, self-developing, and complete human organism. The somatic cell is something from which a new organism can be generated. It is certainly not, however, a distinct organism. So what is the conversation? What are we talking about? What is the definition of extraterrene? The definition of extraterrene, a condition in which a fertilized egg grows outside of the uterus, usually in one of the fallopian tubes. So now, there's this debate going on about people who have frozen their embryos. There are women who, cannot have children or don't want to have children right now. And so they freeze those embryos. And the Alabama State Supreme Court is now saying that the embryos are actually children. They're human beings. And you have to ask the question. We get into some areas where, I sometimes wonder how we get into these areas of debate. In a first of its kind decision, the Alabama State Supreme Court ruled on Friday that embryos are extraterrene children, a term that could have widespread implications for anybody who is seeking or provides in vitro fertilization. The ruling has plunged in vitro fertilization doctors and patients in Alabama into chaos and uncertainty as they scramble to untangle the practical implications of the sweeping ruling. Patients keep reaching out to the Alabama clinic where Dr. Mamie McLaren works with a version of the same question: can we still become parents safely? This continued battle about, people's rights when it comes to abortion and when life begins is something that, I don't know, are the courts the place to determine that when life begins, or is it the science community that should determine that? Calvin, what would you say, man? This is, we all have an opinion on it, but science certainly has its place, and there's a reason why we have science. But, your thoughts?
It's really tough. I would say when there's such varying opinions and such diversity of opinions that people have, science is kind of the only thing you're left with to default to as kind of a baseline. So I would say, that science is probably where I would default to.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why we're in this pickle, if you will, is because there are people who clearly don't think science is the place to have this discussion. That creation and science are two completely different subjects, and that's where it should be left. Let's go to Cindy quickly from Appleton. Cindy, good morning to you. You say what?
Good morning. Well, I as a woman don't have the right to do what I want with my body, but anybody has the right to shoot a gun, and they apparently have the right to just shoot me if they want to. So, how do Republicans square abortion is killing, but not killing with a gun is killing? I just don't get that.
Cindy, they should have you make a commercial because that's a heck of a point, right? I mean, it really is. Thank you very much for the call. It really is a great point. I'm going to spend more time talking about this later on in the week because it is a really involved discussion and one that is going to add some more fuel to the fire. A frozen embryo now is considered a life form. And I don't know, Calvin, and let's do this. We'll certainly talk about it because up next is none other than Dr. Craig, Executive Director of Citizen Action. Got a lot to talk about. Up next, news, weather, and sports on the Earl Ingram Show at 540 AM WAUK.
Your home of the Earl Ingram Show. Weekday mornings from 8 till 10 on The Shaw. 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK. Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
It's 2024. Welcome to Matt Nair on Air, coming to you live across the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Jane Matt Nair.
And I'm Greg Bach.
Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon as we break down the news and share some laughs along the way.
We're talking to politicians, we're talking to community leaders, and we're talking to anyone who has a story.
And we occasionally get a visit from an umbrella cockatoo. Join us for Matt Nair on Air Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266DR Waukesha, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
CBS News Brief. A new sign: Vladimir Putin is tightening his grip in Russia. Her family says a ballerina was arrested in Yekaterinburg this month. CBS's Imtiaz Tayab.
The dual American and Russian citizen was arrested in the central city of Yekaterinburg on suspicion of treason and fundraising for Ukraine's army after making a $51 donation to a Ukrainian charity.
News comes less than a week after Alexei Navalny's death. American prosecutors argued for Julian Assange extradition at court in London today. Supporters of the WikiLeaks founder rallied outside.
Julian Assange has done nothing wrong. He wasn't even a whistleblower. He was simply reporting, publishing what he was given.
Pounding rain and powerful winds are finally dying down in California, leaving behind serious damage. A massive tree crashed through Jacqueline Ellis' home north of Sacramento.
I'm just trying to pick up the pieces and see what I have left.
CBS News Brief. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. A Republican prosecutor is asking the Wisconsin Supreme Court to rule on the state's abortion law. Sheboygan County District Attorney Joel Ermansky is appealing a Madison judge's ruling that Wisconsin's law bans feticide but not elective abortion. Ermansky says he wants the High Court to take the case directly. After months of speculation, Republican Eric Hovde is officially in the race for U.S. Senate in Wisconsin. He made his campaign announcement yesterday on social media.
Everything is going in the wrong direction. All Washington does is divide us and talk about who's to blame. And nothing gets done. That's not the country I know and love.
Wisconsin is a key swing state, and the winner here could decide the balance of power in the Senate. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now, here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. The governor started his day at a Kenosha bar. It's a stop that continues Tony Evers' tour, highlighting the passage of what he calls fair maps. State Senator Bob Wirch joined Evers at the Union Park Tavern today. The event follows the governor's recent signing of Wisconsin Act 94, which had Evers sign the maps passed by the legislature. Governor claims his maps reflect the people's will. All of the referendum questions put forward by the area school districts were rejected by voters last night. Wilmot Union in Kenosha County got close with 45% of voters supporting a $7.5 million referendum. Waterford's 2 questions, seeking a total of $91 million, were also unsuccessful. Burlington's $11 million operational referendum was also declined. Election results are online at WAUKradio.com. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
You know, I hope this is the best hour of your life. I'll tell you that. The Cripes Cast, folks.
Comedian Mary Mack.
He's noticed a very sizable increase on people off the lake coming onto our lake to fish it. You don't want everything to be popular and known about. That seems to be the way I also approach my comedy, Charlie. I think there's a theme.
Cripes Cast every Saturday and Sunday at noon across Civic Media and on the Civic Media app.
The Badgers get a win at home. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Wisconsin Badgers men's basketball team able to pick up a win at the Kohl Center, 74-70 over Maryland. They have the rest of the week off before a road trip against Indiana next Tuesday. The Wisconsin Badgers football team will play the Northwestern Wildcats this fall at Lambeau Field, according to a report. That's Saturday, October 19th. Baseball. Brewers owner Mark Antanasio says there's no signed deal yet to bring back pitcher Brandon Woodruff for 2 years. The Brewers owner reminding everyone a year ago they said the Cardinals would win the division.
There was a team that was widely picked to win last year that finished 21 games behind us. And we finished 9 games ahead of the Cubs last year. So I appreciate the friendly competition, and we're just going to focus on what we need to do. Look, I think the division's clearly better this year.
That's the Brewers' Mark Antanasio. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
It is going to be mostly sunny and mild today. We'll get to around 54 for a high this afternoon. The wind out of the southwest at 5 to 10. Tonight, mostly cloudy, 35. Tomorrow, a little light rain in the morning, then partly cloudy, 49. On Friday, sunny, 38. But we will bounce back with 40s and 50s into the weekend. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 40.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
This is a 4 to 6 p.m. We'll bring you the Wisconsin primary results. And did you know there's Nazis in Nashville?
Waukesha, home of Les Paul, our awesome farmers market.
I bet you're wondering how I knew I chose hands to make me blue with some other guy you knew before. Between the two of us guys, you know I love you more. It took me by surprise, I must say, when I found out yesterday. Don't you know that I heard through the grapevine?
All right, and welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. It's Wednesday, and as always, I'm joined by my guest, the one and only Dr. Craig, Executive Director of Citizen Action. You know, Dr. Craig, it used to be a lot easier before we had all these stream outlets, and we could just call and talk on the phone without having combed our hair or brushed our teeth or washed our faces. Now they can see us.
Though we used to have to go into studios, Earl, and then you still have to brush your hair, wash your teeth, brush your teeth, get dressed. So there was only this intermediate period, really.
How you doing, my friend?
Good. How are you?
A lot of stuff going on at the state level. So the governor signed the this legislation and the maps. And there, I got to tell you, I don't have to tell you, you already know, there are many people on the Democratic side of things who aren't very happy that happened. Why did he do it?
So we have to hold two thoughts here. One is these are extraordinarily better maps than we've had in 14 years. And there is a possibility of the Democrats controlling one or both houses or having a very close margin, which could increase, the influence of 50% of the state on the lawmaking power of the state, which you'd think would be natural, but of course has not been for 14 years. We haven't had democracy. The governor's virtue and his vice is he loves, and it's his brand, the bipartisan compromise, whether it's there or not. And he's done many good things, but the mistakes he's made has been his craving for them. And they do increase his popularity, but the governorship is not just about popularity. It is about getting things done. And so what he did was he offered maps that were not as good as the other maps submitted by Democrats or independent groups. And the Republicans came to the conclusion, because of the blunt force of the state Supreme Court and the majority, that they thought was going to do them worse the way they see the world. In other words, make the maps even fairer. And so they grudgingly, they tried to do fake Evers maps, past Evers's maps. And so he gets to claim victory, do his compromise. He compromised with himself. It was entirely unnecessary. And it makes it very hard for the Democrats to control both houses of the legislature. Now, you could just say, oh, that's partisan, and all the Democrats, almost all of them, voted against these maps when they came for a vote in the Senate and the Assembly a week ago, that they're just being political. They just want more power. No. Some of them maybe. I mean, look, parties have interests, so there's self-interest there. But ultimately, politics and why anyone should be in it, why they should run office, why we should trust them to hold it, is about achieving things for average people. So we're drastically underfunding public education and expanding an unpopular voucher program, right? And harming kids. There are school closings, layoffs, underfunding of vital programs all over the state, and we have a surplus. Why? Because we don't have a Democratic legislature. They're the only party right now that wants to adequately fund public education. That's widely popular. It's more Democratic to do it. The working people, you're a union, you have a union background, Earl. Your career is based on having you lived back at the time when there were good union jobs and you had one, right?
Right.
And
right.
and the people who came after you in your communities around
Didn't get
the state
that. Didn't get that opportunity. Right.
Act 10 was a huge blow, as was everything we've allowed to happen to manufacturing unions.
Right to work. Right to work.
Yeah, we can't change that without both houses. They have had illegitimate rule for 14 years where they were in charge of the legislature, no matter what, by huge majorities. And they did all these things and they have to be undone. Then there are the things we need to do, not only public education funding, but the climate crisis, what we can do to build a fair economy that lifts all boats in the new green economy that's rising. Childcare, you can't work without good childcare and be a parent, and there isn't. It's unaffordable and unavailable. Just so many things. Paid family medical leave. The only many states have moved forward. We're the only country in the world that guarantees you 0 weeks. You can't survive as a working parent without, or just a person, even if don't have kids, without paid family leave. So consequentially, that's where morality comes down. Can we do things that need to get done to help average people? And we can't. It's harder to do under Evers's maps than allowing the Supreme Court process to continue. So that's why we're upset. But we still, with Evers's maps, have an ability to potentially do that. It's harder, particularly in the assembly. And we all need to stop. I guess this is it. We can't control it. We now need to go and recruit good candidates and win these races. So, Earl, it's important for us to, from a power standpoint, understand why the Republicans maximize their power and some Democrats won't, and how that harms our state. But then the big power thing now, the thing we can control, is getting as great candidates and winning as many of these races as we can and trying to get that Democratic trifecta. That is both houses of the legislature and the governor.
You know, Dr. Craig, the Governor Evers clearly stated that that Wisconsin is a purple state. It's not Democratic. It's not Republican. That's his belief, and that's probably one of the reasons why he made this decision. Your thoughts on him clearly saying that we're a purple state, and he wants people to know that?
Well, the most Democratic purple state, Earl, would be one where the composition of the legislature reflected the composition of the vote. One person, one vote. There were maps on the table. Most of the others that the Supreme Court objective experts, academic experts from outside the state of Wisconsin, had already rejected the Republican ones that they said were gerrymanders. And everyone knows that, except Republicans deny it, and they're enablers, like the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, which is unreliably out there with lots of money to make lawsuits on behalf of one side, and ones that are very slanted, and they were involved in this. So this doesn't do that. We had a lot of good government advocates give a lot of cover to the governor, stand with him at the press conference, etc. And they offered all these other standards of fairness. I don't know where these standards came from as moral absolutes. And I don't know how they can be judged against the question of whether workers have a right to form a union, whether our kids have a right to a first-class education, and all kids have equal access. You have some kids in urban areas and in rural areas who have underfunded schools, and they already come from families with more economic challenges, versus those in wealthier places with high property value. White flight suburbs is how these suburbs were created. Let's call it what it is. So that is the morality I'm worried about. And that morality means democracy is best served when the legislature, the composition of it, as closely as possible, reflects the voters of this state and the composition of the vote. And the other standards about how you cut up communities and how maps are shaped and this, that, and the other, I don't know who made these great moral standards that they stack up against the morality I just laid out in education, basic fundamental rights, the climate crisis, anything else. They don't. So these folks are basically confused about power and morality, but stand up there and act like the objective arbiters of what is fair and what is democratic. And so while I'm very passionate about all of that, Earl, we still need to talk about it so we understand how we do it better next time when we get to a point where where we have to decide whether a compromise is the compromise to make. That's endemic to politics. So we should learn something from it, but we can't stick there. We've got to go and try to win majorities with these maps, and that is for the first time in 14 years possible, Earl.
So Dr. Craig, how did the Republicans reward the governor? The lawmakers voted Tuesday to curb Governor Evers' ability to hire members of his cabinet without Senate confirmation. The same day, they threw several of his lower-level nominees off state boards. That's how they rewarded him. You know, Dr. Craig, for trying to do the right thing, they kicked him in the teeth.
They're illegitimately undermining the governor's power, the only person elected by all the voters, by violating and shredding norms that said, the legislature's role in confirmation was, okay, if someone has scandals, if someone's totally unqualified, we step in, it's something rare. They were doing it simply on, they're not us, they're not who we'd appoint. That frustrates the whole structure. That is why they can't hold a majority. That is why maps that make that more likely, but less likely than it's been for a long time, aren't as good. So there's a question of something good versus something better at a time when we need as good as we can get to undo the damage and then build the state we need to build, Earl. And that's an example of it. And if they continue to hold one or both chambers, they will continue to act this way. This is the modern Republican Party. And, democracy requires people to abide by norms. They're not doing that anymore. So it really is about who controls the legislature. There's no norms to protect the governor's power.
Well, it is possible that Democrats can regain, not the Senate. I mean, that's going to be a state Senate. That's going to be almost an impossible thing to do, but they clearly can regain the legislature. That's going to be tougher. Under these circumstances, right?
The previous situation was there was no way. You couldn't even win Powerball, as infinitesimal as the chances are. Now the chances are unlikely but possible. Has to be an election that goes well, and we have to do our things right. Have great candidates, have tons of volunteers.
Dr. Craig, hold the thought. 844-967-2789. Hang on the phone lines. Dr. Craig, Citizen Action, and you on the Earl Ingram Show.
That you let me go. Yeah. Said I heard it through the grapevine. Ooh, heard it through the grapevine.
Listening to the Shaw, WAUK, Waukesha's home for Up North News Radio.
I joined the Carpenters Union 15 years ago as an apprentice, got free training, and have been able to advance. Now I'm a superintendent, running high-profile projects in Milwaukee that change the city skyline. I'm looking for skilled and experienced carpenters. If you want to join my team with great pay, better benefits, and a chance to advance, apply today. Call 262-970-5777 and press 0 to apply. That's 262-970-5777 and press 0.
Finding the special healthcare resources families need just got easier. Wisconsin Wayfinder Children's Resource Network helps kids with delays, disabilities, special healthcare needs, and mental health conditions. Call toll-free 877-947-2929. Ask questions, get answers. Connect today toll-free 877-947-2929. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services.
The Shaw.
I have someone who needs me, someone I've needed so long. For once unafraid, I can go where life leads me. Somehow I know I'll be strong. For once I can touch what my heart used to dream of long before I knew. Oh, someone warm like you would make my
All right,
dream come
welcome
true.
back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. My guest is Dr. Robert Craig, Executive Director of Citizen Action. Go back to the phone lines and Cindy from Appleton. Good morning to you, Cindy. Your thoughts?
Hello, I hate to be an air hog today, but
No, go ahead.
I was kind of upset with Governor Evers for signing the fair maps thing because I knew he was going to get kicked in the teeth by the Republicans anyway. But then I got to thinking about it, and I'm thinking, if he didn't sign that bill and it went to the Supreme Court of Wisconsin, you know what the Republicans would have done anyway. Oh, Janet Protasewicz, she's going to have to recuse herself, and they would have made a big stink about that. So the poor guy was damned if he did and damned if he didn't. So.
Thank you very much for the call, Dr. Craig.
Well, she's absolutely right that they would have done that, and they've already cooked up a completely false scandal around recusal, as there's been no such recusal stare in the past, and that they've refused to recuse themselves for actual conflicts of interest, like receiving over $1 million from a donor for their campaigns and then ruling on their case. Okay, so it's complete hypocrisy, but I think we need thicker skin because them saying it over and over doesn't do anything. We got to learn to ignore them. There was a big dispute that's hard to unpack, Earl, about which way the governor signing these maps or the Supreme Court doing it was the most resilient to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, the Trump Supreme Court stepping in. Mark Pocan felt strongly, and we were talking about last week on your show, Earl, that this mode invites a federal lawsuit more and or intervention like we had 2 years ago. We were going to get better maps, and then the Supreme Court intervened. But others think otherwise, and that this is safer. Other lawyers. Let me put it this way: Governor Evers will not be able to run for a third term if his way ends up bringing the Supreme Court in and returns Republican gerrymandered maps. So I hope he and his supporters are right, and this is the safer course, because if Mark Pocan is right, then he won't be able to run for a third term.
Dr. Craig, many of the governor's lower level appointments. I mean, listen to this. We're talking about obstruction. Many of the governor's lower level appointments have been blocked by Republican senators this session, as it is. On Tuesday, they rejected Evers' picks for the National Resources Board and UW Hospital Board, all of whom have been serving while awaiting Senate confirmation. The people are already in the positions, Dr. Craig. They've already been doing the jobs. And in the face of that, Republicans, out of spite, have said we're not going to confirm them. I mean, he's trusting these people, apparently, Dr. Craig, who clearly don't have any trust in him.
They were willing, as we know, to develop maps that guaranteed they were in control no matter what voters thought. They are willing to sabotage democracy, because if you don't have the people on these commissions, how do you do the work of the Department of Natural Resources Board, the Public Services Commission, the UW Hospital Board, and so on? And it's so inside baseball, the public is mostly unaware of it. There's some news coverage. Very few people read it. It's not that informative anyway, because it doesn't really tell you that this is a practice that has never happened. This violates norms of over 150 years under the Wisconsin Constitution, and you can't run a government this way. It's very much like the national government, where it's a question whether we'll fund the government. It's a question whether we'll abide by our international obligations. I mean, we have sent the Ukrainian people forward in a fight against a much bigger aggressive power on the grounds we had their back, and now we don't, because Donald Trump told Speaker Mike Johnson not to have a vote. They're not going to have a vote on the Senate bipartisan proposal. Right. And they refused to take victory on immigration. I hated their border security stuff, but they couldn't even do that because they were afraid it would give Biden a victory. So it's the same level of sabotage, and it's every level of government. Every board. This is a state people don't realize. A lot of people. Our state government is full of boards, citizen boards, appointed boards, expert boards. They are frustrating a huge number of them and making it hard for them to operate.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. And Bill from Oconomowoc. Good morning to you, Bill. Your thoughts?
Morning, Earl. I got to ask you guys, Dr. Craig and yourself, don't you think Tony
Evers.
Tony Evers.
I understand the
No
mistake,
problem. Go ahead.
Don't you believe he's smarter than we're giving him credit for? Because he pulled what in football or whatever you want to call it, end around play. And he basically is making our state politics work in a bipartisanship fashion. Would you not agree? I'll hang up. Thank you.
It's not really bipartisanship. It's that he made a compromise he didn't have to make so he could get the credit for bipartisanship. That's Earl's point. They're not bipartisan. They're bomb throwers, and they're sabotaging him at every possible step, right? In ways that violate all previous conduct of previous legislators of either party when they were a majority. I would not say Tony Evers is dumb. I think it's more like, Earl, I don't know if you ever met Danny Davis, the former congressman.
Yeah, I have.
My brother Ted, who you know, used to volunteer for Danny. Danny used to say when someone said someone they were opposing who was in the way was smart, he goes, he may be smart, but he ain't wise. So that's what I would say in this case about Governor Evers. And I put it this way. Let me give you a football analogy that works in Wisconsin. He played for a field goal when he could have gotten a touchdown. It's very much like what the San 49ers are critiqued for in overtime, right? They need a touchdown.
Right.
They assumed, they made the judgment, take the field goal, and Patrick Mahomes then gets the ball. Guess what happened? A touchdown, end of Super Bowl.
You know, Dr. Craig, it is clearly kind of like a once in a lifetime thing. And the fact that the ball was in the court of the governor, and the governor had the ability to move this to the Supreme Court, which is the reason why the Supreme Court election was so critically important. It's the reason why $10 million was invested in that race, for the Supreme Court to be the arbiter of what the people wanted. But you know, that is who the governor is. He didn't surprise many of us who know him. We kind of expected that. Is it safe to say that, Dr. Craig? And I need you to hold that thought.
Yeah.
Guys, hang on the phone lines. 844-967-2789. You too can join the conversation. It's Wednesday. That means Wednesdays with none other than my good friend, Dr. Robert Craig, Executive Director of Citizen Action. Up next, news, weather, and sports on the Earl Ingram Show.
I have someone who needs me.
This is your hometown radio, refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Republicans are trying again to cut state income taxes by $2 billion. The state Senate passed a package yesterday that lowers taxes on people earning as much as $150,000 a year. Senate Republican Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu.
We still have over $3 billion surplus in Wisconsin that's just sitting there earning interest. It's the taxpayers' money. It's time to give that money back.
Governor Evers vetoed 2 Republican tax cuts last year. The University of Wisconsin in Madison must now accept all high school graduates from the state who finish in the top 5% of their class. All other state universities have to admit grads in the top 10%. It's part of the deal for state money in exchange for diversity program cuts. Governor Evers signed the bill yesterday. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now, here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. A local DA is trying to speed up the state Supreme Court. Sheboygan County District Attorney Joel Urmanski is petitioning the state Supreme Court to expedite the case, seeking to uphold the state's pre-Roe abortion law. Urmanski urged the court to render a decision without deferring to the Court of Appeals. The request comes after a Dane County judge's ruling in July, which determined that Wisconsin's near-total abortion ban does not extend to consensual abortions. The man suspected of killing 2 people at that sports bar in Elkhorn earlier this month did not have a hearing yesterday as planned. The attorney for Thomas Rout Jr. waived his preliminary hearing. According to Elkhorn police, Rout admitted to killing bartender Gina Weingart and her spouse Emerson on February 1st. Investigators say he also took $140 from a cash register. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
The Todd Alba Show.
You look at Taylor Swift, she fought off the bitterness of defeat when she lost her records, when she was kind of duped by a manager. People who told her she'd never amount to anything. But it doesn't matter if you like her music or not. I'm a fan of anyone. Doesn't matter whether they're an artist or an athlete or just a common Jane or Joe. If you've overcome something in your life, you're a winner. If you've made it through, that's what it's all about.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Beat with a 60-second showbiz beat. Actress Linda Hamilton says it feels surreal being part of the Stranger Things cast for season 5. Yahoo News reports that the 67-year-old actress says she is a huge fan of the show set in the 80s, and it does not seem real now that she is officially part of it, saying at times during shooting she suffers from imposter syndrome. Hamilton's breakout role of Sarah Connor came in The Terminator in 1984. Stranger Things Season 5 will drop sometime in 2025. Netflix has done it again. The network took yet another show that was already a success and made it even more popular. This Is Us was added to the streaming app January 8th. Between Netflix and Hulu, between January 15th and 21st, the show was viewed for over 900 million minutes and cracked the Nielsen top 10. I wish I had the patience to wait until every show came to one app instead of shelling out $4,000 a month for all the streaming apps so I can watch immediately. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, every night between 7 and 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
It is going to be mostly sunny and mild today. We'll get to around 54 for a high this afternoon. The wind out of the southwest at 5 to 10. Tonight, mostly cloudy, 35. Tomorrow, a little light rain in the morning, then partly cloudy, 49. On Friday, sunny, 38. But we will bounce back with 40s and 50s into the weekend. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Temperature now 41.
Do you ever get tired of one-sided conversations filled with mean-spirited rhetoric? It's time to listen and engage. Join the Rational Revolution with me, Chris Alfheim, Saturday afternoons at 2 and Sunday afternoons at 1 on the Shaw, 540 AM WAUK and the Civic Media app.
Covering all the news that affects you with humor and a unique perspective. Matinaire on Air with Jane Matinaire. Weekdays 10 till noon on the Shaw, 101.1 FM and 540 AM WAUK, and on the Civic Media app. Whether you're heading down Les Paul
Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. My guest is my good friend, Dr. Robert Craig, Executive Director of Citizen Action. And let's go to the phone lines. Tom from LA. Good morning to you, Tom. Your thoughts?
Yeah, first off, we the people ultimately are the government and not the corporations, and we all need to wake up and realize that. Second, we really need to realize Republicans are about one thing, and that's power. They don't care about anything else but having control and power. Democrats, this compromise thing and this bipartisan thing, all that tells me is both parties are bought off by the same donors when they do that. Because honestly, it's not for the good of the people. And the bottom line is everyone needs to get out, and we need to have someone in Congress or someone in the House, whether it's the state or it's the federal, that has a profile and courage that's going to stand out there and say, we need to get money out of politics. Nobody says it. Everyone says, I don't take campaign contributions, blah, blah, blah. But none of them say we need to get all money out of politics and we need to get the lobbyists out of Washington or even at our local level. So I just want to say, like I was saying, Republicans are all about power. And that's what people need to remember. And I think Tony Evers might be just all about bipartisanship, but bipartisanship gets you last. Just thank you.
Hey, Tom, thank you very much for the call. Dr. Craig?
I would just add to Tom's, Republicans are all about power. I'll add one of the things they're all about. They're about using that power to benefit people already doing well, the corporate elite, the wealthiest among us. And you'll notice that the one thing Trump really got accomplished was massive tax cuts, the biggest tax cuts for corporations in American history, and temporary ones for average middle class people that have expired. So that's what they want to use power for, regardless of whether any of the rest of their agenda ever happens. I agree. Tom brings attention to the money in politics, and we need to understand that as a motive first and foremost. And he is absolutely right. There are a lot of Democrats who get money from the same donors, and that influences them. You saw it with the $500 million for a billionaire owner of the Milwaukee Brewers, Mark Antanasian, when we're underfunding public education and many other vital needs. And that is an example of that. And perhaps some of this donor class is very fine with having a Republican legislature that also supports Governor Evers, because then they can get more tax cuts, because there's no limit to how many tax cuts they want until it's zero. Then we'll have to stand, and then we'll have to give them, refundable tax cuts that even if they have no tax liability, right? So I think he's right about that. I think the only way to take that on, it's really hard to get it from candidates that are elected by and run by big money, is candidates who don't take it, but are exciting enough and clear enough to get enough small donors not to have to take it. Bernie Sanders proved case. No one thought that could be done at the presidential level. I'd love to see it proven at the level of governor. It was proven by Paul Wellstone in the 90s at U.S. Senate level. It is possible, but you need someone who will stand for something and really give the public red meat and rev people up enough to be able to raise clean, small donations. And then that candidate, if elected, could get rid of what is legalized bribery, which Tom is pointing to.
Let's go to Lynn from Oconomowoc. Good morning to you, Lynn. Your thoughts?
Good morning, Earl. Thank you for taking my call. I just have one question and then maybe a couple comments. Were these the maps of least change? And I'm a card-carrying Dem, and I'll vote for Dems, but they're always begging for money. And I wouldn't donate to Josh Call, and I don't think I'll ever send Governor Evers another check. I feel totally betrayed when we worked hard to get Janet Protasewicz in as a justice, and then to have Governor Evers wimp out on this. It's terrible, because I didn't want more than 50% advantage. I wanted fair maps. And I wouldn't call what Governor Evers put in as fair maps. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very important call. And she's, Dr. Craig, she speaks for a lot of people, right?
Well, the good news is it's not the made-up least change standard that right-wing Supreme Court came up with. So that was made up and is now being ignored, even by their side. It was just a fig leaf. I think she's right to bring up the question of courage, right? But what I want to hold is, I totally understand what she's thinking about Governor Evers. And frankly, Attorney General Call hasn't shown a lot of visible courage either. Whether he was doing small things I don't know about, but they're opaque to me. I know less about what he's done in terms of cases than I know about Governor Evers' policy. But we do have maps that are the first maps that either party could win in 14 years. What I would encourage her to do is not to get demoralized, because that lets what's going on go on, but to support down ballot candidates who are courageous and will take a stand and won't make bad compromises. Now, I would just say I'm not against compromises. You have to do that to govern. That's what democracy is, because we're pluralistic and you have to, people to agree with you. You have to know what a good compromise is when you're getting the far end of the possible. What a bad compromise is, like paying $10,000 more than a house than you need to pay for it if you're bargaining over any purchase, right? Where there's a back and forth, or a car. And so that's what we need. And we need to pick up the legislature, but we have some very good legislators. I could name some in your viewership that are strong, and Chris Larson, Supreme Moore Makunde, Christina Shelton in Green Bay. There are others, Francisco Awong in Madison. The point, though, is that we need more of them, and it's not that they won't compromise. They don't compromise just to look good, or just because it's easy, or just to be courageous, not because they're not courageous enough. And look what happened with Navalny in Russia. He knew he was going to be arrested and sent to gulags, and he came back because he cared so much about restoring Russian democracy, a different vision of what Russia could be. And we have people who are just so afraid of losing their little jobs that they won't do what they're elected to do, which is have some backbone.
You know, Dr. Craig, your thoughts on the proposed 4.4% bracket that the Republicans proposed for tax cuts. Single people $112,500 and joint filers $150,000. That the governor, you think he may veto?
It's in different bills. He's said he may sign some parts, not other parts. He should sign no parts, and virtually no Democrats voted for any of these. So he's supposed to be the leader of this party. He doesn't really act like he has to be in line with with Democratic legislators, or act like the leader of the party in terms of positions. He certainly takes that position and says, I'm the leader and you need to support me when it benefits him, what he's trying to do. But they're all regressive. The change in tax brackets, the vast majority of the money goes to people who make six figures and more, because that's what they do. The retirement income thing, making it non-taxable, when we got rid of pensions like your generation had, Earl, at the manufacturing plant, before they destroyed the manufacturing unions and then the public employee unions, people had retirement, average people taken care of. Most people, middle class and lower income people, don't have enough saved because they don't make enough, and they don't have a pension, and therefore they benefit very little. This benefits more people who make enough money to have big 401ks.
That's true.
I'm okay with making that tax-free, but we better supplement the retirements and give dignified retirements to all the people who have little or no retirement saving, which is a very large percentage of workers in the state right now. Childcare workers, home care workers, all these vital professions, nurses, aides, they have no retirement money, and we're going to give the money away to people who have retirement money. It's outrageous. That's one I'm afraid he's going to sign, because a couple Democrats voted for it, not many. But it's totally regressive, and it could be part of a package that really created retirement security, but not as a standalone.
You know, Dr. Craig, right now you've got Republicans and Democrats who both agree on child tax credits. Long overdue.
We can talk about that too.
Yeah, we live in a state that has basically, Joe Biden already had agreed to increasing child tax credits nationally. The state of Wisconsin, under Republican leadership, $6,000 per, I guess, family is what they basically were proposing or allowed in this state. $3,000 per child, $3,000 per child. on a national level with Joe Biden, that was, 10,000. So do you trust these people?
No, I'll tell you, there's a huge difference. And, one of the risks to democracy is the policies like tax policy, they're so complicated. People just hear child tax credit and it sounds the same. There's a vast difference. And this is what a deal Clinton made federally in the 90s that has caused huge inequalities. When you hear the term refundability of a tax credit, what that means is if you're low and moderate income and don't owe as much taxes, you still get the full value in a payment. The income tax credit is the most well-known refundable tax credit. It's very progressive because it helps people who don't make nearly as much money. This is all non-refundable. So it helps little or not at all the people who need the most help, and it helps people further up the income scale. No Democrat in their like mind should support it, but President Biden's child tax credit reduced poverty by 45% nationally, an amazing thing temporarily because of Joe Manchin, it wasn't made permanent, right? Yes. Because it was refundable. And what Evers wants to sign here is not refundable, and therefore it is regressive, and therefore it should also be vetoed until it's refundable. And if they want it for people who owe more taxes, we should not sign it until we give it to the people who need it the most, the lower and middle income and working people who are nurse aides and education assistants and home care workers, all fast food workers. These are all professions that deserve dignity.
Dr. Craig, and also professions who have children as well.
Yes.
Who go to work every day and do the things that we say people are supposed to do, who are struggling and trying, and yet we ignore their plight and punish them as if they don't count. Only the middle class counts, and not those who are below the middle class who we don't see, right? Because we don't see them doesn't mean that they aren't working hard to do the exact same thing that others are.
I think the standard should be that state Democrats need to go at least as far as President Biden. Now, President Biden has adjusted over time to the political, the values and the politics of the time. He has become dramatically more progressive than he had been in decades on a lot of domestic policy like this, and the climate issue and racial equality. He has not moved as much on foreign policy, and that's why Gaza policy is such a mess. And so we need to be able to hold both thoughts, but you would think that Governor Evers at least would uphold Biden's standard on what is worthwhile for a child tax credit and what isn't. Same with climate work, same with infrastructure, all of those things. And he doesn't always do that. He reverts to a kind of Bill Clinton 1990s vision where you're bargaining with Newt Gingrich when we don't need to do that.
That's a great analogy, by the way, Dr. Craig, one that I dread. 844-967-2789. My guest is Dr. Robert Craig, Executive Director of Citizen Action. We'll continue the conversation on the Earl Ingram Show.
Little child and gentleman, we want the best. We won't settle for less. Don't be a drag, participate. Clamps on the happy shell and roller skates.
Waukesha's home for the Tom Albaugh Show.
Most of us can agree we should have the freedom to make our own medical decisions. Politicians should have no role at all, but not California mega millionaire Eric Hovde. Hovde said, "I am totally opposed to abortion, and I'm 100% pro-life." And he supported overturning Roe v. Wade, the court case that protected abortion rights. Hovde's been supported by Wisconsin Right to Life, an extreme anti-abortion group that supports banning abortion, even in cases of rape and incest, and threatens doctors and nurses with criminal charges for providing abortion care. With views like that, Hovde could be a crucial vote in favor of a national abortion ban, letting politicians decide what's right for women. Call Eric Hovde at his California office at 714-730-4444. Tell him his position on abortion is dangerous for Wisconsin women. Paid for by A Better Wisconsin Together, Inc.
believe that a woman should be loved that way, but it hurts me so inside to see her treat me so unkind. Somebody, some way, tell her it's unfair.
Welcome back to what is the fast moving Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. My guest is my good friend, Dr. Robert Craig, Executive Director of Citizen Action. So, Dr. Craig, so the Republicans have trotted out a trial horse, Eric Hovde, who ran against Senator Tammy Baldwin once before, but he was not able to defeat former Governor Tony. No, what is his name? Governor. What was the former governor's name who ran against Eric Hovde? He was
Tommy Thompson. Yeah, okay.
How could I forget Tommy
race.
Thompson? Yeah, and he couldn't defeat Tommy Thompson, who was, I don't know, 75 years old himself.
He sounded and looked different than before. His hair was a weird color. He was trying to sound MAGA. It was very weird.
and so they've trotted out Eric Hovde. And Eric Hovde is a prime example of the kind of person that they have in mind constantly. Very wealthy, young guy, very wealthy, who clearly does not understand the average person, what the average person has to deal with, be they Republican or Democrats, be they rural or urban people. And so they lead people to believe that this is the guy who's going to turn your life around. We've got to vote for Eric Hovde. He's no different than Michaels, who ran, against Governor Evers. They bring these younger guys up with all this money who supposedly self-made, great businessmen, Dr. Craig, as if that's the answer to what's ailing our society. We need more businessmen running our government. Your thoughts?
Maybe it's refreshingly honest, Earl, about who the Republicans are. Because you got Tammy Baldwin, a woman who came up of moderate means, with health conditions, which she talks about a lot in her commitment to guaranteeing health care to everyone. Came up, through county supervisor, state legislature, Congress. She wasn't supposed to win legislature or Congress. And being the first avowedly lesbian member of the U.S. Senate, right? And really being popular, showing that she understands the people of the state because she is one of them, because she has lived the life of average Wisconsinites. Whereas who are they? They're the donor class. They are the billionaires, right? They're guys like Eric Hovde. And, his virtues might be he knows where the taxes are that he might have to pay that he wants to cut. And he knows all the other donors because he knows them from the country club. And that might help with a certain kind of Gilded Age politics. But it's not what any voter should want. So I guess they're going to try to make him a common man, Earl. And are they going to put him in a motorcycle or leather jackets, or what's it going to be?
Let's go to Bob from Waukesha. Good morning to you, Bob. Your thoughts?
Good morning, Earl. Well, I remember when I was a kid in school, and they talked about Boss Tweed and carpetbaggers.
Yeah.
Well, this guy comes in from California. He's a carpetbagger. That's all he is. He's a billionaire.
He owns banks.
And I'll tell you what. I'm a retired Teamster, and Tammy Baldwin did everything she could for us guys when we were fighting for our pensions. And I know Eric Hovde wouldn't have done that, just like Ron Johnson wouldn't have done it. And she has done more for Wisconsin than any Republican has ever done. And she gets my vote, and I hope she beats this guy like a rented mule.
Thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Gary from Sussex quickly, Gary.
Well, Eric Huffey is not a carpetbagger. I have no idea where this guy, Bob from Waukesha, gets this idea. Eric Huffey lives 70% of the time in Madison. He owns businesses all over the United States, and he started stuff. So, no, he's not a carpetbagger at all, zero. He has a home out there because he has businesses out there. He also owns 9 other homes out, the Huffy homes. And those are homes that are all throughout the United States that helps out women that have been trafficked.
He owns a lot of banks, right, Gary?
Oh, yes, that's his business.
I know.
How do you think? You guys, I'm telling you, Bob out there out in Waukesha, I have no idea where he gets his information. I think he's been listening to too much liberal radio. Turn on Fox sometime to find out what's really going on.
Turn to Fox News and find out what's really going on. Thank you very much for the call. Dr. Craig.
I mean, I didn't say he was a carpetbagger. I've not paid much attention to the political gossip columnist Dan Bice and Milwaukee Journal Sentinel and whatever he has or hasn't said about that. I think there have been some headlines I haven't clicked on. I just, you just line up Tammy's experience versus the experience of running banks all over and having 8, 9 houses. Is it going to be like McCain? Maybe he'll remember how many houses he owns. McCain couldn't remember that, even though McCain did do some wonderful things like save the Affordable Care Act. But, at least it's upfront who he is, but we should be able to critique as to why he should represent average people, right? And why someone who just has always wanted to be in the U.S. Senate and be in the cloakroom kind of like as an ambition, why that should be our setter, because the people who have talent to lead average people like Abe Lincoln or Fighting Bob LaFollette, they can't raise the money to run for office or run for U.S. Senate in this country right now with all the money. And what the great thing about Tammy Baldwin is she step by step actually overcame the odds.
Hey, Dr. Craig, we got to leave it there. It just does not last long enough. But the great thing about it is, there's always next week. All right, Dr. Robert Craig, Executive Director of Citizen Action, and my friend, always enjoy having you on the line. I got to say this. A guy, Tony, said, I haven't thanked you, Earl, for putting on Dr. Craig on the air via video and not on his phone. So thank you, and I can only guess other listeners are grateful. All right, Dr. Craig, I agree as well. Up next, Jane Madnair on air and Greg Bott. Enjoy the 50-plus degree temperature. See you later.
Broadcasting to Southeast Wisconsin at 5:40 a.m. This is The Shaw.